She thought she left him behind, but he never left her. One cafe, one look, one daughter, and suddenly 5 years of secrets explode. Will he protect what he lost, or destroy everything to keep it? Welcome back to Heartwoven Tales. I'm Selena. Hope you're doing well. I'd love to know, where are you listening to me from today? Make sure you stay with me till the very end because this story is full of twists you won't want to miss. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a tale like this. Now let's dive in. Kevin Virelli entered the cafe with the quiet weight of a man who expected obedience without asking for it. Each step was measured, precise, a silent assertion that this space was his for now, even if it had never truly belonged to anyone. The cafe itself seemed ordinary to the untrained eye. Tables of wood worn smooth, the faint aroma of roasted beans mingling with the scent of rain from the street. But anyone who knew him understood it was anything but neutral. No cameras recorded the movements inside. No gossip had ever slipped out from the staff. Every chair, every light, every tray placement was vetted by him once, twice, sometimes 3 times. Mistakes here were not accidents. They were invitations to trouble. Kevin didn't tolerate either. His espresso sat in front of him, cooling faster than he could taste it. Across the table, a man, nervous, jittering, trying to justify a failure, spoke rapidly, words spilling like water from a shaken bottle. Kevin did not listen. At this point, listening was a courtesy he no longer afforded. Failure was predictable, excuses redundant. His gaze remained fixed on the entrance, calculating, anticipating. Outside, the guards moved with invisible presence, not hidden, but seamlessly merged with the crowd, every movement controlled, every glance precise. To anyone else, it was an ordinary street scene. To Kevin, it was armor, his invisible network of awareness and preparedness. Guns rested lightly against thighs, hands casually in pockets. But Kevin knew the potential violence was only a breath away. The bell above the door rang once, sharp and melodic, cutting through the muffled hum of conversation. Kevin's fingers froze mid-motion, the espresso untouched, the conversation across the table immediately forgotten. It was not fear that arrested him. It was recognition, deep and quiet, the kind that sank into the bones without warning. A laugh followed, soft and unguarded. It was small, careless, alive in a way that had not existed in his life for 5 years. He looked up slowly, muscles tightening beneath his tailored suit, eyes narrowing with the faintest trace of disbelief. She stood there, Meghan. Rain streaked down her coat in irregular patterns, the drops catching light as she moved, almost as if the world around her had frozen to highlight her presence. Her eyes were searching, scanning, alert. Not for him, not yet, but for safety, for exits, for a way to navigate a world she knew would not forgive mistakes. Beside her, a child, a little girl with Kevin's jawline, the same sharp eyes, the same stillness that had once been his own signature in the world. She was small, but the resemblance was undeniable, like a reflection of something he had lost without realizing until now. Kevin did not rise. He did not breathe deeply. The air between them seemed to vibrate with tension. Control did not shatter in a crash. It vanished like smoke slipping through the fingers of a man who had always believed he could hold it. The man across from him continued to speak, oblivious, but Kevin's attention was no longer there. His mind cataloged everything, the angle of her shoulders, the way the child's hand rested lightly on her coat, the subtle hesitation in her step. Every detail mattered. Every nuance signaled history, unspoken and unresolved. Meghan guided the girl inside, careful but distracted. She did not yet see him fully, though her instincts told her danger lingered. Her hand gripped the child's more tightly, a silent anchor in a world she knew was unpredictable. Kevin's gaze followed them, unwavering, calculating. He noticed the reaction of other patrons. Some glanced briefly at the newcomer, others returned to their coffee, unaware of the storm that had quietly entered their midst. Kevin's presence was an invisible magnet. Meghan's entry was a trigger. The interplay was subtle, but potent. The child swung a foot absent-mindedly, humming a tune too light for the weight of the moment. Kevin's lips twitched, not in humor, not in anger, but in recognition. That behavior, carefree, innocent, yet wary, belonged to neither of them fully anymore. It belonged to a life that had been stolen, hidden, and now resurfaced. Meghan guided them toward the darkest corner of the cafe, selecting a table with care. Distance, she thought, was safety. But Kevin's attention did not waver. Every movement she made was catalogued in his mind, analyzed, measured. He did not intend to intimidate, yet intimidation seeped naturally from him, an aura of control impossible to ignore. The rain pattered against the windows in irregular rhythms, echoing through the quiet spaces between patrons. Kevin felt it, a reminder that the world outside moved at its own pace, unaware of the tectonic shifts in this small room. The espresso grew colder. Kevin ignored it. Meghan lowered herself into the seat, still scanning, still alert. The child climbed beside her, eyes wide, curious, and unaware of the invisible currents of tension in the air. Kevin noted the posture of the child, too straight, too composed. Survival instincts too early, learned from observing absence and caution. A server approached cautiously, hesitant under Kevin's silent observation. He acknowledged the intrusion with a subtle glance, a reminder of the quiet authority that had always defined him. The server withdrew, leaving only the weight of unspoken rules behind. Kevin's eyes shifted slightly to the entrance again. Each movement she made, each micro-expression, was a note in a symphony of recognition and unresolved history. He recalled the nights of absence, of loss, the way she had disappeared, the calculated precision of erasing herself from his life. A pause, almost imperceptible, hung in the air. Meghan whispered something to the child, soft, protective. Kevin caught the syllables, understood the protective layering, the shields built over years of fear and survival. His fingers tightened around the handle of his cup, then released. He did not move closer yet, did not signal intent. Observation first, assessment. The same habits that had built his empire now operated quietly in a cafe, silently, invisibly, with lethal precision. A glance outside caught him, guards adjusting positions, scanning the street, maintaining the illusion of normalcy. Inside, the world did not know a storm had arrived. Outside, threats waited like shadows along alleyways, ready for instruction, obedient to him alone. The child's attention wandered to a passing patron, head turning sharply, instinctively protective. Kevin noted the alertness, the instinct to assess potential danger. Too young to understand, yet trained in observation, without anyone realizing it. Meghan's hand brushed against the child's, a subtle tether, holding her to reality, to safety, to a world partially her own. Kevin's mind catalogued every fraction of motion, every flicker of expression. Time slowed, attention focused, like a laser. Then, without preamble, the child laughed, a light, fleeting sound that cut through the oppressive weight of the room. Kevin's lips tightened imperceptibly. That sound carried history, joy, fear, and innocence all at once. Meghan looked up briefly, scanning the room again, unaware that her past now stood silently, invisibly, in the corner of her vision. Recognition had passed into assessment. Kevin's eyes softened just enough to betray a fraction of the man he had been, before control became survival, before loss became armor. He did not move, did not speak, did not make the mistake of revealing the torrent beneath his calm surface. Every breath measured, every heartbeat catalogued. Control was not lost. It had been reallocated, redirected, concentrated into a single point of awareness. Them. And then, as she seated the child fully, adjusting the coat around her, Kevin felt a shift in the air, an unspoken understanding that the moment had changed, that the past had entered with rain and laughter, and that the world he had built would need reconsideration. Every patron in the cafe remained oblivious, caught in the normalcy of ordinary existence, unaware of the tectonic undercurrents. Kevin's mind cataloged, analyzed, and anticipated. The bell had rung, the laugh had echoed, and nothing would ever be the same again. A subtle tremor in the child's posture, a turn of the head, a glance toward the doorway, caught Kevin's eye. It was instinctive, unconscious, but it signaled the beginning of interaction. Kevin's hands resting on the table tightened slightly. Not aggression, not threat, but recognition of ownership, of accountability, of silent protection that would follow them wherever they went. Meghan's eyes flicked toward him just once, cautious, almost imperceptible. Her mind raced, trying to calculate exposure, safety, and the consequences of being seen. Kevin's mind ran faster than she could imagine, measuring, anticipating, balancing risk with instinct. The rain outside intensified, pattering against the windows in irregular, chaotic rhythms, a mirror of the storm now inside the cafe. Kevin's gaze returned to the child. Recognition merged with calculation. Connection merged with caution. The room seemed to narrow, the air heavier, every movement magnified. Then, from somewhere deep inside, a memory surfaced. A fraction of the past, an echo of the life that had been interrupted 5 years ago. Kevin's jaw tightened imperceptibly. He did not speak. He did not need to. The memory was enough. The cafe's light flickered momentarily, unnoticed by most, but Kevin caught it, a small, almost irrelevant event made significant by his perception. Meghan did not notice. The child laughed again, a fleeting sound of joy that did not mask the tension but added to its complexity. Kevin's fingers stilled over his cup. Recognition had fully settled. Not fear, not anger, but awareness. Control had shifted. Observation had become imperative. The past had arrived. And for the first time in years, Kevin felt the fragile, unsteady tremor of something he had thought permanently lost. The door rattled slightly as another gust of wind entered. Meghan adjusted the child's coat. Kevin remained seated, silent, calculated. His mind worked through possibilities, consequences, and next moves, all in the span of heartbeats. The cafe, though ordinary to the untrained eye, became a theater of unspoken conflict. Each table, each patron, each shadow gained new significance. Kevin's presence transformed the room, even without movement, without a word. And then, just as the child leaned forward to pick up a fallen sugar packet, Kevin felt the subtle shift. Attention had been fully captured. Meghan had noticed, even if only subconsciously, that he was no longer just a man in a suit. He was the storm waiting silently, patiently for the first spark. He did not rise. He did not speak. And in that frozen moment, the cafe held its breath with him, waiting for the inevitable first move, the first acknowledgement, the first recognition that nothing in this room would ever remain neutral again. 2. Meghan felt him before she saw him. The air had weight, heavier than rain or memory, heavier than the espresso aroma that filled the cafe. Every muscle in her body stiffened instinctively. Her hand closed around Lily's small fingers, tight enough to remind herself she still had control over something, anything in this room. Instinct screamed retreat, not just caution, not just fear, but pure survival instinct sharpened by years of running, hiding, disappearing. Her lungs drew shallow breaths, calculating how quickly she could move, how silently she could disappear, how subtly she could navigate without being noticed. 5 years of erasing herself, new names, new cities, sleepless nights, identities buried under layers of distance, ended here. Now, in the soft light of a cafe, all of it felt fragile, temporary, insufficient. Her mind raced, rapid-fire assessments forming and dissolving in milliseconds. Outside would mean exposure. Eyes, streets, passers-by, guards. Any step wrong and a mistake could cost more than embarrassment. Inside would mean him. The man who had ruled her past like a shadow, whose presence could unravel months of careful planning with nothing more than a glance. She chose distance, not safety. Distance could protect her body. It could not protect her heart, her mind, or her daughter. She guided Lily to the darkest table, tucked against the wall where shadows clung and the cafe's light felt polite rather than intimate. Kevin watched without blinking, not rage, not anger, not any of the theatrics she might have expected. Only assessment, calm, controlled, precise assessment. That terrified her more than fury ever could. A predator not showing teeth is far more dangerous than one bearing them. Lily climbed onto the chair, small feet dangling above the floor, humming a tune that belonged neither entirely to the present nor to the carefree past. "Cake?" she asked softly, tilting her head like a little investigator testing boundaries. Meghan said no too sharply. The word cracked the air, drawing a few glances from nearby patrons, subtle but enough. Heads turned, curiosity fleeting but present, like the faint stirring of awareness before a storm. Kevin's gaze remained fixed on her, unyielding, a quiet anchor of danger in the room. He leaned back slightly, posture casual but eyes razor-focused. Meghan recognized that angle, that imperceptible shift, the way he remembered tone, memory, and timing. Every nuance of her voice was cataloged, every word analyzed for cracks. Lily swung her legs absent-mindedly, humming the same little song, unaware she occupied a space men walked into carefully, as if each step required calculation. She was innocent yet instinctively alert, a paradox Kevin noted with immediate interest. Meghan didn't look at Kevin. To do so would have been catastrophic. To meet his gaze would mean a gamble with all she had survived, all she had built in 5 long years. Freezing in his presence had always been fatal in more ways than one. She positioned herself between the child and the room, the protective shield of a mother instinctively aware of invisible threats. Every sip of air, every glance around the cafe was a calculation of survival. She mapped exits, the position of the other patrons, the placement of potential danger. Kevin observed, subtle yet unrelenting. His presence did not demand attention, yet it pulled it, bending the room to him. The espresso in front of him cooled, unnoticed, forgotten. His mind cataloged every detail, posture, breathing, gaze, and the small micro-movements that revealed intent. Outside, guards remained stationary, silent sentinels blending with pedestrians, waiting for a signal that might never come. Inside, the world felt smaller, constrained, compressed by the weight of anticipation. Meghan shifted slightly, adjusting Lily's coat, careful to avoid eye contact, careful to mask any tremor. Every movement was deliberate, every decision immediate. One false move could bring him into her world in ways she had avoided for half a decade. Lily's small hands fiddled with the napkin holder, unbothered, unaware of the silent tension that hung between tables. Kevin noticed, cataloged, processed. The child's innocence was delicate armor, fragile yet unyielding in its own way. The cafe's hum of conversation continued around them, muted against the tension that radiated from Kevin. Each patron remained oblivious, yet the room seemed to narrow around their table, space folding inward, attention drawn whether anyone realized it or not. Meghan whispered instructions to Lily, subtle and careful. "Stay close. Don't move too much. Just breathe, okay?" Her voice was calm, yet taut with urgency. Kevin registered the rhythm, the protective cadence, the way she balanced fear and instinct seamlessly. He observed how she measured distance between tables, how she angled the chair, how she positioned Lily's small frame away from potential line of sight from the entrance. This wasn't paranoia, it was experience distilled into immediate action. The child tilted her head, curious, drawn to the movement of a server balancing plates nearby. Kevin noted the alertness again, the instinctive scan for anomalies, the subtle awareness that belonged to someone trained early without knowing it. Meghan's pulse raced despite her control. 5 years of running, hiding, surviving, all led to this singular point in a cafe, across from the man who had once ruled her life with unyielding authority. She couldn't anticipate his next move, yet she understood instinctively that it could reshape everything. Kevin leaned slightly forward, not to intimidate, not to engage, but to observe with precision. Every fraction of motion, every blink, every micro-expression cataloged and analyzed. Assessment without interference. Silent, deadly, effective. Lily reached for a menu she could not read fully, curiosity innocent yet probing. Kevin's attention tracked her hand, her posture, her subtle scanning of the room. Survival instincts, he noted, ingrained despite youth and innocence. Meghan's hand brushed the child's hair back from her face, protective and subtle, a silent shield. Kevin caught the gesture, recognized it, acknowledged it mentally. That was what had always terrified him most, the combination of innocence and instinctive defense. A faint clatter from the counter drew attention briefly, but Kevin remained focused. Meghan flinched slightly, not from fear, but from the anticipation of chaos he could summon if necessary. The child hummed again, absent-mindedly, a sound light enough to fill the tension, yet sharp enough to puncture the weight around them. Kevin's jaw tightened imperceptibly. That tone, that melody, it carried history, joy, and warning all at once. Meghan's eyes flicked toward him once, briefly, calculating, weighing, assessing the threat versus distance. Kevin caught it, but said nothing, moving neither hand nor expression. Observation was all he needed. Outside, the rain continued to drum lightly, the sound a subtle reminder that the world beyond these walls existed, but mattered little now. Kevin's perception of threat, protection, and history had condensed into the 3 figures at the shadowed table. Meghan adjusted the child's chair, subtly shielding her from peripheral view. Kevin noted the careful angles, the deliberate placements, the invisible map she'd already constructed in moments. The child's laughter escaped again, soft and fleeting. Heads turned briefly, patrons curious but unaware of the undercurrent. Kevin's gaze sharpened, noting the incongruity of innocence and danger coexisting in a single heartbeat. Meghan whispered again, "Stay still, don't draw attention." The words were careful, low, a rhythm designed to steady, to protect, to mask the anxiety that hummed beneath. Kevin's eyes flicked momentarily to her lips, noting the controlled tension in every syllable. Lily swung her legs, humming a tune half forgotten from bedtime stories. Kevin's mind cataloged, analyzed, compared instinctive behavior to known survival patterns, subtle, adaptive, precise. Meghan's posture stiffened slightly as a server approached, coffee in hand. Kevin's attention tracked the movement, noting every potential angle of disruption. The world moved around them, unaware of the storm within the cafe walls. A subtle noise outside, a car door, footsteps, a muffled conversation, alerted Kevin to peripheral threat. Meghan's instincts twitched, though she remained frozen in careful control. Small, measured movements to shield Lily became almost invisible. The child glanced up at Kevin, innocent eyes meeting his. Recognition flickered in the briefest moment, curiosity without understanding. Kevin allowed no expression to betray calculation, but mentally cataloged every reaction, every shift. Meghan's chest rose and fell in shallow rhythm, pulse racing but movement smooth. Kevin noted the tension in her shoulders, the micro-adjustments she made unconsciously to maintain control, to protect, to survive. The cafe continued its quiet hum. Patrons sipped, whispered, moved. Kevin's presence transformed the room subtly. Distance, caution, awareness, the invisible gravitational pull he exuded began to focus like a lens around their table. Lily's fingers traced the table edge, tapping softly. Meghan's hand brushed over them quickly, protective, corrective, silent. Kevin noticed the gestures, registering instinctive training, adaptive behavior. A faint shadow moved outside the window, indistinct but noticeable. Kevin's gaze flicked instinctively, scanning the potential threat. Meghan, unaware, remained focused on the child, unaware her past had returned fully into the room. The child hummed again, small but audible, like a pulse. Kevin noted the melody, its rhythm, the pattern. Innocence not masking awareness, curiosity not defeating caution. Meghan whispered under her breath, "It's okay, it's okay." More to herself than to the child. Kevin's attention caught the tone, registering it as both shield and confession. The cafe's light flickered briefly. The child's eyes followed the movement. Kevin's gaze mirrored hers, noting observation, curiosity, alertness. Miniature awareness in a small frame, alarmingly precise. The space between them seemed to shrink subtly, yet Kevin made no move. Meghan's instincts told her he could, at any moment, close the distance with lethal efficiency. The tension was almost tactile, a pressure on the chest. A dropped napkin rolled across the floor. Kevin's glance tracked it, assessing reaction time, attention, peripheral awareness. Meghan's head tilted slightly to cover, unconscious yet measured. Lily's humming faltered briefly. Noticing the silent exchange between the adults she did not fully understand, Kevin observed the falter, noted timing, control, response. Meghan shifted once more, adjusting the child's coat. Kevin cataloged every motion, no matter how subtle. Awareness was armor, he reminded himself, and they were armed. The rain outside intensified, drumming harder on the glass. The sound punctuated the quiet tension, acting as a metronome for a scene weighted with history, instinct, and unspoken recognition. Kevin leaned back subtly, maintaining assessment without engagement. Meghan continued to calculate escape routes, positioning, and protective angles, unaware she was being analyzed in minute detail. Lily's small hand twitched, moving toward the edge of the table. Meghan reacted immediately, covering, correcting, protective. Kevin's attention sharpened further, impressed despite himself at the subtle precision. The cafe's air seemed thicker, charged with anticipation. Patrons remained oblivious. The storm was contained within the table, the two adults, the small child bridging history and present tension. Kevin's lips tightened slightly. Observation, patience, awareness. Meghan's defenses were instinctive. The child's behaviors were intuitive. The past had returned fully, quietly, without ceremony. Many moments, the tilt of a head, the swing of a leg, the brush of a hand, built tension silently. Kevin cataloged, processed, waited. Meghan calculated, protected, avoided eye contact, held the child close. The bell above the door faintly echoed as another customer entered, briefly drawing glances. Kevin's peripheral vision caught movement, evaluated threat. Meghan shifted slightly, instinctively repositioning Lily. The child's curiosity returned, humming quietly, unaware. Kevin's mind ran through probabilities, contingencies, reactions, outcomes. Meghan's instincts were fast, precise, unyielding. A patron laughed softly nearby. Kevin noted the incongruity. Meghan tensed slightly, eyes scanning, muscles poised, awareness maintained, vigilance intact. Outside, shadows lengthened, rain pattered more heavily. Kevin's gaze flicked between entrance, street, patrons, table. Meghan remained defensive, careful, calculated. Lily tilted her head again, humming softly. Kevin allowed himself no response, but attention sharpened, silently protective. Meghan whispered again, "Stay still." Rhythmical, protective. The tension persisted, unbroken, layered with unspoken recognition, history, instinct, and the weight of choices long past. Every movement, every glance, every micro-expression carried meaning. Kevin remained seated, unmoving. Meghan protected, Lily hummed. The cafe continued its oblivious normalcy around the storm contained at their table. Kevin stopped hearing the man across from him entirely. The words, the tone, the excuses, they became a blur, irrelevant background noise compared to the presence at the shadowed table. His mind snapped into focus, sharpened, predatory. The child's posture drew every ounce of his attention. It was wrong for her age, too alert, too composed, too deliberate. Kevin's eyes flicked from her hands to her shoulders, the way her spine was straight, the tilt of her head, the way she scanned the room in measured sweeps. Survival behavior, not learned in school, not inherited by chance. Trained, instinctive, defensive. His jaw tightened imperceptibly. Memories he had buried forced their way to the surface. Meghan leaving overnight. Accounts erased, phone lines severed, identities dissolved. That wasn't heartbreak. That was fear crystallized, sharpened into action. 5 years ago, he had watched her vanish into the night like smoke, and now that same discipline radiated in the child before him. Lily laughed softly, crumbs settling on her coat, oblivious to the tension that had just enveloped the room. Meghan whispered her name. Lily, like a shield, a talisman meant to guard innocence and hold chaos at bay. Kevin's hand twitched slightly, a reflex he barely controlled. He stood abruptly, chair scraping against the floor in a sharp, cutting sound. Conversations in the cafe stuttered and halted mid-sentence. Heads turned. Patrons sensed a shift, even if they did not understand why. Outside, his guards shifted imperceptibly, blending with the city like shadows made flesh. Meghan's pulse spiked. She felt the kinetic charge in the air, the subtle vibration that meant attention had turned lethal. Lily tilted her head toward Kevin, frowning with small but perceptive intelligence. "Mama," she whispered softly, "that man's staring." Kevin's eyes flicked down to meet hers. Assessment, calculation, awareness, protective instinct, all wrapped in a single gaze. Meghan's hand tightened subtly around the child's, as if she could anchor the world by sheer force of will. Kevin's lips pressed into a thin line. Observation alone was enough. Engagement was optional. His mind ran through possibilities, threat, defense, exposure, compromise, and cataloged each silently. The cafe air thickened, charged, humming with tension, an invisible current connecting predator, prey, and the unintended observer between them. Meghan adjusted Lily's chair slightly, angling her small body behind herself in a subconscious shield. Kevin's eyes tracked the motion, noting precision, instinct, and intent, impressed despite himself. Lily reached for a napkin absent-mindedly, unaware of the silent calculus playing out across the table. Kevin's attention zeroed in, noting reflexes, micro-movements, awareness that had been trained long before most children could even count. Meghan whispered, low and urgent, "Stay close. Don't move too much." The cadence of her voice was protective, rhythmic, meant to anchor her child while masking her own rising fear. Kevin's mind cataloged tone, hesitation, and hidden tremor, drawing a pattern of instinct and history. A server moved past the table, plates balanced carefully, eyes darting as if sensing the tension but unable to name it. Kevin's peripheral vision noted every detail, every potential threat vector, every subtle movement that could become leverage or danger. Meghan's pulse raced, muscles coiled, awareness acute. 5 years of survival sharpened her senses. Now every sound, glance, and vibration was amplified. Lily hummed again, soft and detached, unaware of the silent gravity around her. Kevin leaned slightly forward, elbows resting on the table, fingers steepled. Assessment continued, each calculation fluid, invisible, instantaneous. He observed Meghan's micro-adjustments, the tilt of her shoulders, the subtle shifts in weight, the way she instinctively positioned Lily as both shield and weapon. Outside, rain-slicked streets reflected city lights, distant cars sliding past. guards remained motionless, eyes scanning, hands hovering over concealed weapons. The tension inside mirrored, magnified, condensed. A dropped sugar packet skittered across the floor. Meghan's hand reacted instantly, flicking it aside without breaking composure. Kevin cataloged the movement. Precision, timing, alertness. Lily's small face tilted up toward him again, her frown subtle but intelligent. "Why's he looking at us like that?" she asked, voice tiny, unassuming, yet perceptive beyond her years. Meghan whispered, He's just noticing us, honey, don't worry." Kevin's eyes lingered, tracing the subtle shift of Meghan's jaw, the micro-expression of control layered over tension. His memory flickered. Overnight disappearances, wiped. Accounts, unseen safe houses, blurred escape routes. The child's posture, demeanor, and gaze mirrored that history in a way that could not be ignored. A faint clink of glass came from the counter. Kevin's head moved fractionally, registering sound without effort. Meghan's body stiffened, subtle micro-muscle adjustments indicating awareness. Lily's attention remained partially on Kevin, partially on the minor cafe activity, a split of focus that spoke to innate alertness. Kevin's jaw flexed subtly. He could sense the inherited vigilance in her, a reflection of a mother's survival. He adjusted his stance, moving fluidly but without making a sound, calculating threat, exposure, and the child's vulnerability. Meghan's breathing hitched ever so slightly. She knew instinctively that he was aware of everything: posture, micro-movements, subtle pulses in the air, even the almost invisible tremor in her fingers. Lily's small hands played with a straw wrapper, folding it, unfolding it, a mechanical act of curiosity and habit. Kevin noted it, a trained eye reading detail most would miss. Meghan's lips pressed into a thin line, whispering instructions, protective and subtle. Outside, a shadow flickered past the cafe window. Kevin's eyes followed, registering potential intrusion, peripheral risk, a situational scan that had become second nature. Meghan shifted slightly to angle her body, an unconscious barrier between child and potential exposure. Kevin's observation remained precise, analytical, yet patient. He did not move beyond awareness. Lily hummed again, rhythm gentle, unbroken, a soft metronome in the silent storm around them. Meghan whispered again, "Stay still." The word was protective, almost ritualistic, meant to maintain composure, maintain control. Kevin's mind cataloged pattern, timing, reaction, subtle emphasis, details that revealed history and instinct. A faint clatter from a chair in the corner drew Kevin's eye. Meghan's muscles tensed imperceptibly. The child barely noticed, yet instinctively her small frame shifted, following maternal guidance. Kevin's jaw flexed slightly, subtle, controlled, precise. He remained seated, yet every movement in the cafe registered in his peripheral awareness. The child's eyes met his again. Innocence, curiosity, alertness, a combination that demanded silent respect. Meghan adjusted her grip on Lily's hand. Micro-adjustments, instinctive shielding, subtle guidance, all noted. Kevin allowed a fraction of acknowledgement, barely perceptible, before returning to silent calculation. Rain struck the windows harder, drumming rhythmically, almost in sync with the rising tension inside. Each sound, external or internal, contributed to the silent symphony of observation, instinct, and history. A whisper from another table caught Meghan's attention. She ignored it, but subtle movement betrayed awareness. Kevin's eyes caught the micro-shift, recognition of reflexive defense in action. Lily tilted her head, humming, fading for a moment. Kevin's awareness noted the lapse. Minute, inconsequential perhaps, but a sign of adaptive intelligence. Meghan straightened, lips pressed tightly, holding a calculated calm that masked racing thoughts. Kevin's mind assessed, measured, cataloged, all without overt movement. A waiter's steps near their table made Meghan adjust slightly, pulling Lily back subtly, a protective maneuver. Kevin noted every micro-motion, timing, intention, defensive layering. The child's eyes flicked briefly toward the door, curiosity innocent but precise. Meghan followed the line of sight, aware, protective, corrective in microseconds. Kevin's jaw remained tight, observation, patience, assessment. The cafe's hum persisted, oblivious to the storm contained at their corner. Meghan whispered again, "It's okay, Lily." Comfort layered over instinct. Kevin's eyes caught nuance, emotion beneath control, strength disguised as routine. Lily swung her legs slightly, hummed softly. Kevin's attention cataloged rhythm, behavior, alertness, cognitive patterns. A child shaped by instinct, guided by maternal precision. Outside, reflections in wet streets shifted. Guards remained motionless, potential threats noted and neutralized in imagination. Meghan adjusted posture, shielded, aligned angles, maintained presence. Kevin remained seated, watching, calculating, aware. Mini gestures, tilts, micro-movements, the silent language of survival spoke louder than words. The child's laughter, soft, infrequent, punctuated tension. Kevin registered tone, innocence, alertness intertwined. Meghan's whispers became rhythmic anchors, protective codes, mental shields. Kevin noted, absorbed, cataloged. The cafe's patrons remained unaware, the tension invisible yet potent. The bell above the door chimed faintly. Kevin's gaze flicked toward the entrance, instinctive scan of the periphery. Meghan adjusted slightly, shielding child reflexively. The rain outside pounded harder, masking sounds, layering tension. Lily hummed again, lightly. Kevin's mind calculated every contingency, response, and potential exposure. Meghan remained poised, vigilant, protective. Kevin's lips pressed into a thin line. Observation, awareness, calculation, each glance, each breath. The storm contained at their table remained invisible, unbroken, layered, and tense. Kevin's attention never wavered. Meghan's protection never faltered. Lily's innocence continued to dance between awareness and curiosity. The cafe's normalcy persisted around them, a fragile shell over a silent battlefield of instinct, history, and unspoken truths. Kevin stopped at their table. He didn't loom, didn't make a show of his presence, didn't allow the instinctive pull of authority to overwhelm the space. His approach was measured, deliberate, every step quiet but weighted, a subtle statement of control without ostentation. The child's small eyes tracked him. Curiosity mingled with the awareness of danger inherited from her mother. Meghan's hand tightened slightly on Lily's, instinctively protective, and the child tilted her head, sensing the tension but unaware of the full weight of history converging at their table. Kevin's gaze remained on Meghan, assessing, cataloging, weighing potential reactions, micro-expressions, the invisible cracks in composure that most could not hide. He stopped just short of the edge of their table, not invading, not threatening, yet impossible to ignore. Silence stretched, thick and charged, the room around them continuing in oblivious rhythm, coffee cups clinking, soft conversations, background noises, while the three at the corner existed in a separate plane of tension. Kevin's voice, low, calm, deliberate, cut through the subtle hum. Who is the child? The question was simple, yet it carried weight heavy enough to unsettle the air. Meghan's hand didn't waver. Her posture remained firm, yet the subtle tightening of her jaw betrayed the awareness of how small answers could unleash storms. She instructed him without speaking of it directly, her mind calculating the optics, the micro-messages. "Sit," she said, slow, careful, measured. "Sit, slowly, because she doesn't need to see men towering over women." Her tone was calm, authoritative, protective, yet underneath, every syllable carried the history of fear and survival. Kevin hesitated, ever so slightly, a microsecond that drew all attention. Patrons nearby noticed nothing, yet Kevin's pause, the deliberate stillness, acted as an invisible pivot. Then, obeying, he lowered himself into the chair across from them, a movement that was voluntary yet controlled, silent power contained in minimal motion. The act alone drew glances from the cafe, subtle, curious, fleeting. Eyes registered the anomaly, not knowing the weight behind the action. Lily tilted her head, her small brows furrowing as her gaze locked on Kevin. "Are you important?" she asked, blunt, innocent, the question simple but instinctively probing, sensing power without understanding it. Kevin allowed himself a small pause, eyes narrowing fractionally, considering the answer, knowing truth was sharper than deception here. "To the wrong people," he said finally, low, careful, honest, and with that admission, he left a fragment of understanding. Meghan's lips pressed together, holding back the emotions, holding back history, holding back a flood of instinct and reason that threatened to surface in the child's presence. She introduced her daughter, naming her softly, deliberately, without elaboration, without explanation. Kevin cataloged the name, the cadence, the subtle inflection, and ran dates in his head, memories surfacing like suppressed files, the timelines overlapping, hardening into realization. Something inside him shifted, hard, cold, indelible. He had imagined this moment countless times, but now reality condensed all speculation into clarity. Kevin leaned forward slightly, voice low, deliberate like pulling a pin, soft but edged with a weight that could shatter delicate facades. "Is she mine?" The question hung in the air, suspended between past and present, danger and love, silence and revelation. Meghan didn't cry, didn't falter, didn't soften it for comfort or self-preservation. Her lips parted, calm but firm, words precise, deliberate. "Yes." The syllable landed like a stone dropped into still water, sending ripples through every hidden corner of their histories. Kevin's eyes widened fractionally, shock tempered by immediate calculation, instinct, and latent desire. The timing was perfect, brutal, and utterly unavoidable. His phone vibrated suddenly, slicing through the tension, a message from one of his men. "Rival spotted nearby." Kevin's eyes flicked to the screen, registering details with instant comprehension. Meghan exhaled once, a soft, controlled release, almost inaudible, but carrying years of fear, relief, and exhaustion. "This," she said, voice low, heavy with history, "is why I ran." The words echoed, more than just an explanation. They were confession, warning, and reasoning all at once. Kevin's gaze returned to the child, observing, noting, assessing, the calculations racing through his mind. Threat, protection, risk, exposure. Lily looked between them, small and perceptive, sensing the unspoken weight but unaware of its magnitude. Meghan's hand remained over the child's, shielding, guiding, protecting. Kevin shifted slightly, posture relaxed but muscles coiled, every micro-movement containing potential lethality. Outside, the city hummed, oblivious. The rain a soft percussion against the window pane, masking sounds that could carry consequences. Kevin's mind ran probabilities, contingencies, risk factors, potential responses, and safe extractions. Meghan's pulse beat faster, yet her composure remained intact, every decision tactical, protective, deliberate. The cafe's light flickered briefly, shadows dancing over faces, emphasizing contrasts of history, instinct, and unspoken truth. Kevin's lips pressed into a thin line, thoughts racing while demeanor remained calm, unreadable. Lily shifted slightly, humming softly again, unaware of the silent storm swirling around her. Meghan whispered under her breath, "We need to keep it calm." Kevin registered tone, urgency, protective instinct, the careful balance between concealment and revelation. A server approached with drinks, and Meghan adjusted her positioning, shielding Lily subtly, masking micro-movements, all instinctive. Kevin's eyes noted, cataloged, absorbed, weighing potential danger, opportunity, leverage. He assessed all patrons, movements, exits, and the placement of each table, the microgeography of the cafe now a tactical map in his mind. Meghan's jaw tightened subtly, tiny muscles shifting, micro-gestures betraying her calculation, her readiness, her awareness. Lily's small hands traced the table edge. Kevin observed again, pattern, rhythm, vigilance, alertness, potential, instinct. Meghan whispered again, "Stay with me." The words were protective, rhythmic, a shield against chaos. Kevin noted every syllable, the cadence, the hidden weight beneath control. His eyes flicked to her again, analyzing history, presence, authority, and subtle fear. Outside, shadows shifted, cars moved, rain pattered, a symphony of noise masking subtle indicators of movement and threat. Kevin's mind calculated all possibilities, simultaneously scanning for threats, reading gestures, anticipating reactions. Meghan adjusted the child's coat, small movements protective, precise, careful, layering security without noise. Kevin's eyes followed, recognizing instinct, calculation, survival translated into micro-movement. The child's gaze drifted slightly, curiosity undimmed, innocence untouched, yet intelligence perceptive. Kevin's jaw flexed, micro-expression registering respect for instinct and awareness. Meghan's posture remained poised, alert, protective, unyielding. Kevin leaned slightly forward, just enough to observe, not to intrude, each fraction of motion deliberate. A clatter in the background drew Kevin's attention, then passed, a minor disruption. Yet Meghan's awareness reacted instantly, protective micro-shifts shielding Lily. Kevin registered it, noting reaction time, accuracy, subtlety. Lily's small fingers twitched slightly. Meghan's hand covered, corrected, protective, instinctive. Kevin's mind cataloged it. Pattern, awareness, adaptive intelligence. Outside, rain intensified, drumming rhythmically, masking sounds, layering tension. Kevin's presence condensed the room, tension focused like a lens on the corner table. Meghan whispered again, words soft, rhythmic, anchoring the child. Kevin observed, processing, calculating, aware. The cafe continued around them, oblivious, the storm contained in micro-expressions, subtle gestures, silences, and suppressed histories. Kevin's lips pressed, attention unwavering, ready for motion, assessment, decision. Meghan's posture remained protective, defensive, precise. Lily hummed faintly, soft, unaware of the danger threading through the air. The tension held, compacted, heavy, layered with history, instinct, and unspoken truths. Mini cliffhangers, the slightest tilt of head, the briefest glance, the imperceptible shift of weight, each moment a small explosion of anticipation. Kevin's eyes flicked to the child again, measuring, assessing, reconciling, calculating. Meghan exhaled once more, protective, calm, aware. Kevin's phone vibrated again, a subtle reminder of reality encroaching, threat imminent. Outside shadows hinted at movement, unconfirmed potential danger, risk layering the scene. Kevin's gaze hardened slightly, invisible lines drawn between them, protective, tactical, precise. Meghan's micro-adjustments continued, shielding, guiding, protecting. Lily remained oblivious, humming, a bridge between innocence and danger. The cafe's normalcy persisted externally, yet within, history, instinct, and present danger coalesced into a single pulse of tension. Kevin's focus sharpened, observation absolute, calculation immediate. Meghan's defense remained layered, precise, instinctive, micro-tension unresolved, silent, poised. The question had been asked, the answer given. The storm around them had only just begun. Kevin's eyes narrowed as he leaned back slightly, letting the words settle like lead in the air. Accusation, precise, cutting, invisible, yet undeniable. He accused her of theft, not of money or objects, not of petty wrongs, but of years, of truth, of choice itself. The weight of that statement pressed against Meghan, yet she didn't flinch. She didn't back down, didn't flinch, didn't soften the edges. Her gaze met his, steady, unwavering, carved from years of survival and instinct. The cafe continued its quiet murmur around them, oblivious to the invisible war threading the space. Kevin's jaw tightened imperceptibly. He had expected denial, excuses, bargaining. Instead, she leaned subtly forward, calm, deliberate, and spoke with clarity and truth. "Enemies track your shadow, Kevin, not your name," she said, soft but unyielding, each word layered with history, fear, strategy, and truth. Her eyes held his, steady, and in them was the story of nights when his influence bled into headlines, the lives disrupted by the trail of power he left, and the vigilance required to protect herself and the child. She reminded him, calmly, of nights she had slept with a knife beneath her pillow, every muscle tensed, aware, waiting, protecting, because his enemies had no morality, and her fear had been a weapon, a shield, and a guide. Lily, perched quietly on the chair, small and perceptive, leaned closer to her mother. Her soft voice, barely above a whisper, carried the innocence of the child yet mirrored instinctive awareness. "Mama, I don't like this cafe anymore," she murmured, tiny hand clutching the edge of the table. Kevin's gaze shifted immediately, calculating, assessing, measuring potential threat vectors, noting the subtle but definite alarm in the child's posture. He caught sight of a man near the counter, eyes lingering too long, scanning too carefully, attention too precise. Not his, not one of his men. Instinct sharpened like a blade. Without thought, without deliberation, Kevin shifted between the man and their table, positioning himself subtly but decisively, a silent wall, a living shield of power and threat. That motion, automatic yet deliberate, spoke volumes to Meghan. She exhaled softly, recognizing instinct mirrored instinct. That single gesture, protective, unasked for yet precise, confirmed more than words ever could. "You protect what you own," she said, voice low, firm, layered with meaning, a truth as ancient as survival. "I protect what I love." Kevin registered it. Mental calculation paused briefly, impressed, unsettled, challenged. The man near the counter noticed the shift in positioning, the subtle but undeniable barrier between him and the table. He hesitated, then moved, exiting without incident, leaving the tension in the cafe thickened, palpable, lingering like smoke in the air. Kevin didn't relax, not fully. His body remained coiled, muscles subtle, awareness acute. The realization settled in, a truth unspoken but unavoidable. For the first time in years, power alone was insufficient. Authority, fear, influence. They could not guarantee safety. Not here, not now, not with what he had lost and what remained. Silence, the thing he had wielded like armor, like a weapon, felt suddenly expensive, costly beyond calculation. Meghan's pulse raced subtly, chest rising and falling with restrained urgency, protective instinct flaring beneath layers of calm exterior. Lily remained close, small hands gripping the edge of the table, aware without understanding, instinctively feeling the tension radiating from both adults. Kevin's eyes scanned the room, noting every patron, every movement, every potential breach. The cafe's background hum, a conversation, a clink of cups, a soft shuffle of chairs, was filtered out by his focus, attention narrowed to the figures at his table and the invisible currents of danger moving around them. Meghan subtly adjusted her position, a shield formed not just of body but presence, experience, and instinct. Kevin's gaze followed every micro-adjustment, every tilt of shoulder, every subtle repositioning. It was silent communication between predator and protector, between past and present, between instinct and calculation. The rain outside intensified, each drop tapping against the window pane like a metronome, counting moments of awareness, preparation, potential eruption. Kevin's mind cataloged threats, angles, potential intrusions. Meghan's awareness layered protection subtly over her child, movements precise, deliberate, instinctive. A brief cough from a nearby patron drew no attention, yet Kevin noted tone, placement, posture, reaction, a minor anomaly in a living map of potential hazards. Lily tilted her head toward the stranger-free space beside Kevin, sensing safety yet unsure why, instinctive comfort at proximity without understanding the complexity behind it. Meghan's hands brushed the child's hair back, protective gesture, subtle, natural, layered with years of vigilance. Kevin noted the motion, understood instinctively, and allowed a slight shift, a subtle acknowledgement, nothing more. Patrons remained oblivious, yet every minor sound, movement, flicker of light and shadow registered in Kevin's mental map. He cataloged patterns, attention spans, peripheral movements, micro-threats. Meghan's posture remained poised, vigilant, instinctive. Lily hummed quietly, a soft, humanizing rhythm amidst the tension, bridging innocence and survival. Kevin's eyes flicked to the windows, assessing possible external variables, movements beyond immediate perception, threats approaching silently through mundane street activity. Meghan shifted slightly, positioning her child with near-invisible adjustments, shielding, protecting, guiding. Kevin noted, impressed by precision, instinct, and awareness distilled through years of fear, training, and maternal experience. Lily reached for a small pastry absent-mindedly, fingers delicate, unaware of every observation. Kevin cataloged the motion, subtle alertness beneath innocence, and recognized potential future alert behaviors. Meghan whispered quietly, rhythmically, protective instructions that masked urgency with calm authority. Kevin's attention registered tone, cadence, hidden stress, controlled instinct. Outside, rain splashed, reflections rippling across streets, masking movement, blending threat and benign reality. Kevin's mind traced lines of probability, contingency, potential intrusion, adaptive response. Meghan's subtle repositioning, slight lean, micro shifts, every gesture protective, calculated, silent, layering barriers between her child and unseen dangers. Lily's eyes flicked to Kevin, curiosity innocent, vigilance latent. Kevin's expression remained calm, calculation absolute. A soft murmur from the counter, a minor sound, drew Meghan's micro-awareness, and she shifted fractionally, positioning Lily away, shielding, protective instinct acute. Kevin noted every movement, recording patterns, cataloging micro-responses, understanding instinctive logic in real time. The stranger's exit left residue tension, subtle vibrations of awareness, alertness, and vigilance that neither adult ignored. Kevin's lips pressed, jaw tight, eyes scanning room, street, windows, patrons, echoes, micro-movements. Meghan remained poised, protective, instinctive, vigilant. Lily hummed softly again, unaware of the subtle battles unfolding around her. Kevin's mind ran calculations for every potential escalation, exit, engagement, protective maneuver. Meghan's hand remained on her child, subtle gestures precise, micro shifts protective, instinctive, controlled. Each minor gesture, tilt, adjustment, glance, unspoken acknowledgement formed silent cliffhangers, tension unresolved, anticipation growing. The cafe's normalcy persisted, oblivious, external hum unchanged. Within their corner, history, instinct, calculation, and maternal protection merged into invisible tension, each moment pregnant with risk, potential, revelation. Kevin's attention remained absolute, unblinking, assessing, calculating, protective instinct layered over raw awareness. Meghan's posture remained firm, precise, subtle micro-adjustments shielding child, masking fear with calm authority. Lily hummed, shifted slightly, small hand twitched. Kevin's attention noted, recorded, assessed, anticipated. The storm contained within their table persisted, silent, charged, unresolved, many cliffhangers threaded through each motion, glance, gesture, pause, breath. The presence of danger, history, and instinct layered with every heartbeat. Kevin's observation, Meghan's protection, Lily's innocence, all combined into a tableau of tension, control, awareness, and silent challenge. Power alone had proven insufficient, yet presence, instinct, and reaction formed a living shield. Silence was expensive, but it held, for now, layered, dense, dangerous. Each micro-moment a prelude to potential escalation, awareness, or revelation. Kevin's eyes swept once more, final scan of patrons, windows, street. Meghan's protective instincts held, child secure, vigilance absolute. Lily hummed again, rhythmical, tiny pulse amid silent storm. The chapter ended not with resolution, but with anticipation, threats acknowledged, instincts activated, history unbroken, tension unresolved. Kevin crouched slowly, deliberately, lowering himself to Lily's level, careful not to break the fragile equilibrium in the cafe. Every movement was controlled, measured, a demonstration of patience and intent, not aggression. Outside, the world continued its muted rhythm. Cars passing, rain tapping the pavement, pedestrians moving, but Kevin's awareness condensed the room into a single focus, the child before him, the mother guarding her. Lily's small eyes widened slightly, curiosity mingling with instinctive caution, the sharp awareness she inherited from Meghan already active. She tilted her head, lips parting slightly, hesitant. Do you hurt people? The question was simple, innocent yet loaded with implicit awareness. Kevin's jaw tightened fractionally. He didn't lie. He inhaled slowly, exhaled, and responded calmly, deliberately. Yes, but only those who try to hurt others first. The weight of the words carried authority and consequence, honesty blended with restraint. Lily's gaze remained steady, searching for truth, scanning for micro-expressions, the subtle cadence of tone. She paused, processing. Then, with the slow deliberation of a child learning the boundaries of morality and danger, she asked the question that cut closer, sharper. "Would you hurt me?" Kevin's eyes softened imperceptibly, shadowed with memories, protective instinct, and something deeper, unspoken. His head shook once, deliberate, absolute, never. That single word carried more cost than any threat, any act of violence, any declaration of power he had made in his lifetime. It was not a promise lightly given, it was a burden assumed, layered with responsibility, regret, and resolve. Lily's small lips curved slightly, satisfied. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled a cookie, offering it to him with a gesture both innocent and commanding. The subtle insistence of trust formed instinctively. Kevin's eyes flicked down at the cookie, then back to her face, noting the micro-expression, the protective boundaries embedded in her gesture, and allowed himself a brief acknowledgement. Meghan's throat tightened, muscles tensing, the surge of emotion masked beneath layers of composure, her hand adjusting Lily's small shoulders subtly, protective yet controlled. Kevin straightened slowly, each movement deliberate, coiling presence and authority into a quiet force. He met Meghan's gaze, the depth of history, recognition, and unspoken conversation passing silently between them. "Rivals will come now," he said, low, deliberate, matter of fact. "They always do." The words hung heavy, almost tactile, like a warning that seeped into the room without notice, yet impossible to ignore. Meghan's lips pressed, her hand still resting lightly on Lily's, fingers protective, posture firm. Her voice, calm but firm, carried weight. "Love doesn't cancel danger, Kevin." The statement was simple, true, absolute, layered with reality, instinct, and maternal experience. Kevin's eyes flickered with acknowledgement, a subtle shift in jaw, a micro-expression hidden beneath control. "Danger can be redirected," he said, measured, deliberate, his voice low enough to convey authority without aggression, soft enough to suggest focus, strategy, and purpose. Every word carried promise, threat, and calculation intertwined. "I will dismantle rotes, names, habits, anything that leads back to you or her," he continued, voice steady, deliberate, cataloging potential paths, contingencies, and unseen networks, "even if it means burning my own throne." The declaration landed, weighty, undeniable, filled with both protection and menace, a vow framed in cold logic and fierce devotion. Lily tilted her head slightly, curiosity alive, sensing gravity she didn't fully comprehend. Kevin's eyes softened fractionally, not as weakness but as acknowledgement of what mattered most: the child, the mother, the fragile line between survival and exposure. Meghan's pulse quickened subtly, careful to mask the internal swell, posture controlled, every micro-movement protective, precise, deliberate. Outside, the rain intensified, hammering against the windows, drumming a chaotic rhythm that contrasted sharply with the meticulous order within the cafe. Kevin's mind remained sharp, scanning beyond the walls, noting potential threats, exits, shadows, behaviors, patterns. Meghan's instincts layered protections, subtle yet comprehensive, adjusting for unseen angles, micro-threats, and environmental variables. Lily's small hands fiddled with the edge of the table, tracing the grain of wood absent-mindedly, yet alert in a way adults failed to recognize. Kevin's attention registered every movement, every pause, every subconscious assessment. The cafe's patrons moved around them, oblivious, coffee cups clinking, soft murmurs of conversation continuing, yet the three at the corner table existed within an invisible bubble of tension, history, and consequence. Meghan whispered softly to Lily, subtle, protective, a rhythm of reassurance underlaid with urgency. Kevin cataloged cadence, tone, protective instinct, and adaptive behaviors. He noted micro-adjustments. Lily leaning slightly, Meghan's hand on her back, the slight shift of weight, all precise, calculated, instinctive. A minor clatter at the counter drew Kevin's attention, peripheral scanning instant and precise, while Meghan instinctively adjusted, shielding the child subtly. Outside, shadowed figures moved, subtle, indistinct, potential threats moving within the peripheral reality. Kevin cataloged, assessed, recalculated, integrating external variables into the protective envelope around the table. Meghan's pulse remained steady, fingers adjusting hair, coat, posture, subtle micro-shifts, invisible yet precise. Lily hummed softly, a rhythm blending innocence and curiosity, masking awareness she could not yet articulate. Kevin's eyes followed, micro-analyzing posture, behavior, instinctive reaction, protective instinct latent beneath innocence. Each breath measured, each blink observed, every subtle motion catalogued, potential threats weighed. Meghan's hand brushed the child's shoulder again. Protective gesture, subtle, instinctive, reinforcing safety without notice. Kevin leaned slightly forward, not to intimidate, but to monitor, observe, evaluate, ready to act if necessary. The cafe continued its normalcy, oblivious to the micro-drama unfolding, yet inside the corner table, tension, instinct, and history merged into kinetic energy. Rain drummed on the windows, masking subtle sounds, layering perception, alerting Kevin to peripheral movements. Meghan's micro-adjustments continued. Slight lean, protective arm positioning, eye scanning, subtle barrier formation. Kevin cataloged each, assessing readiness, anticipation, threat potential. Lily tilted her head again, curiosity alive, sensing invisible currents, processing threat and reassurance simultaneously. Kevin's lips pressed into a thin line, attention absolute, vigilance complete, protective instinct active. Meghan's chest rose and fell slowly, micro-exhalations masking adrenaline surge, heart calibrating for potential escalation. Small gestures, a hand on the table, shift of chair, micro-lean, combined to form silent cliffhangers, tension unresolved yet palpable. Kevin's mind ran calculations, contingency plans, extraction possibilities, threat neutralization, route assessment, silent protective maneuvers. Meghan's instinct layered precise, adaptive, protective, reactive to potential unseen dangers. Lily hummed softly again, unaware of the storm contained in motion and intent around her. Kevin's posture remained coiled, yet measured, awareness absolute, prepared, protective, calculated. Outside, shadows moved, reflections of light danced across rain-slicked streets, potential threat vectors, unknown variables added to mental map. Meghan's subtle repositioning continued, protective shield over child, awareness acute, instincts honed over years of fear and survival. Kevin's gaze followed, assessing, evaluating, planning, aware. Many cliffhangers threaded each movement, each glance, each subtle shift, tension thick, anticipation high, story unfolding with precision. The balance between innocence, protection, power, and threat remained delicate, charged, unresolved. Kevin's lips pressed, jaw tight, posture coiled, presence absolute. Meghan's vigilance remained precise, instinctive, layered with protective intent. Lily hummed, observed, unaware, bridging past and present, danger and safety. The chapter ended not with resolution but with poised anticipation, tension held, micro-threats cataloged, instincts activated, protection absolute, silent cliffhangers threading every heartbeat, every motion, every glance. They didn't reconcile, not fully, not in the ways that mattered, not in the ways that could undo half a decade of distance, fear, and survival. Lies required comfort, and comfort was a currency long depleted in their lives, spent in invisible accounts of memory, loss, and quiet endurance. Kevin rose slowly from the table, measured, deliberate, his presence once again folding the space around him into a sphere of authority and silent threat. He walked toward the door with Meghan and Lily in his wake, each step precise, like a predator patrolling territory, yet tempered by restraint he hadn't practiced in years. Rain fell harder outside, the droplets hammering the glass with a rhythm that mirrored the tension between past and present, power and restraint. Kevin positioned himself instinctively, body a shield between the small child and the street, a living wall of vigilance and intent. Meghan moved close to Lily, protective, guiding, yet not reaching for him, not testing boundaries, her instincts wary, trained, wary of both his presence and her own heart. Lily's small hand waved gently, and in her voice was a mixture of trust and recognition as she called him Kevin. Not father, not stranger, not hero, not enemy, simply Kevin. That name landed heavier than any bullet could, carrying weight of identity, history, and connection that words could not hold. Kevin's jaw tightened subtly as he heard it, eyes narrowing just slightly, not in anger but in acknowledgement of what mattered most, what had always mattered most, the fragile, undeniable bond that survived absence, lies, and distance. 5 years ago, Kevin had chosen power. He had made decisions with precision, logic, and ruthless clarity, but at a cost he had not calculated fully, the cost of family, connection, and love. Today, standing in a cafe drenched by rain, he made a different choice. Restraint, measured, deliberate, protective, understanding that influence and strength alone could not shield those he cared for from the shadows that always lingered. Meghan watched him carefully, Not for promises, not for declarations, not for softness he had never displayed, but for limits. She measured the edges of his decisions, the space between action and impulse, calculating what could be trusted, what could be relied upon, what remained instinct, and what could be human. Kevin's inner circle, spread across city blocks, shadowed streets and invisible channels of control, awaited signals, direction, precision. His hand moved subtly, a phone activated, fingers tapping out a single instruction. Shut it all down. No orders, no chaos unleashed, no exposure of family to his world of violence, influence, and danger. He would not pull them in. He would not risk them. Instead, he would erase the world around them. The threats, the exposure, the enemies, and the shadows that might reach them. And in that choice, destruction became devotion, calculated, absolute, and unflinching. Each step toward the rain-slicked street was a negotiation of instinct and restraint, the distance between danger and protection, measured in heartbeats, micro-movements, and awareness, sharpened over years. Lily's hand brushed against his coat instinctively, not seeking comfort but acknowledging presence. Kevin's gaze flicked down, cataloging micro-expressions, noting the subtle reliance she placed without fully understanding it. Meghan's eyes remained on him, measuring, assessing, scanning for inconsistencies, weaknesses, or traces of old patterns, but finding none. The world outside the cafe remained oblivious. Pedestrians moving, cars passing, rain blurring neon lights and asphalt. But inside Kevin's mind, every angle, every shadow, every potential threat vector was accounted for, neutralized, or erased preemptively. He walked slowly, deliberately, his presence alone suffusing space with authority, quiet, and absolute control. Meghan followed with Lily in tow, steps measured, protective, each movement shielding, guiding, yet respecting boundaries, trust, and the fragile lines drawn between past and present. The rain soaked them gradually, but neither paused, the water a background rhythm to the sharper cadence of tension, anticipation, and layered awareness. Kevin's peripheral vision constantly scanned, not only for immediate threats but for residual shadows, latent dangers, opportunities for safe passage, contingency plans for every eventuality. Meghan adjusted Lily's small coat subtly, protective, precise, covering, shielding, instinctive, unspoken. Lily's eyes tracked his movements, a child's curiosity tempered by instinctive awareness. Glances flickering between mother and man she only partially knew but recognized in ways adults could not articulate. Kevin's mind cataloged, recalculated, and prioritized, internalizing responsibility, threat assessment, and maternal protection simultaneously. He knew rivals would strike eventually, could strike without warning, yet the message sent, the orders given, the control exerted from invisible networks would hold for the necessary moments, buying time, safety, and a buffer for the fragile bond walking before him. Meghan's steps remained steady, deliberate, protective, yet restrained, balancing instinct with rational assessment, the weight of history and caution layered in every measured move. Kevin's presence behind them was absolute, a coiled force, protective yet unreadable, offering both security and silent warning. Lily's small hand slipped into his for a fraction of a second, trust unspoken, instinctive acknowledgement of protection, and he allowed it, noting every twitch, grip, and micro-expression. Rain streamed down, cold, relentless, but neither parent nor child hesitated, moving through puddles, reflections, and glistening streets with precision, awareness, and subtle grace. Kevin's mind ran through invisible maps, threat vectors, potential intersections, anticipating movements, neutralizing risk, layered like chess moves unseen yet preemptive. Meghan's gaze flicked to him occasionally, small micro-expressions questioning, assessing limits, boundaries, and intent, noting calculation behind calm authority. Kevin adjusted subtly, scanning reflections in wet windows, streetlights glinting, peripheral movement, assessing invisible threats, recalculating paths, protecting from unseen angles. Lily hummed softly, quiet rhythm threading innocence and awareness, bridging history and instinct between past loss and present protection. Kevin's eyes softened for a fraction of a second, acknowledgement of trust, recognition of bond, and the weight of responsibility settling across his shoulders like armor. Each step through rain, street, reflections, movement of pedestrians, and ambient noise was measured, cataloged, protective, with contingencies layered in silent calculation. Meghan's hand brushed Lily's hair gently, shielding from wind, rain, discomfort, instinctive, maternal, precise. Kevin's mind continued to catalog not just immediate threats but potential future exposure, invisible channels of influence, patterns of risk, routes of approach, exit points, and probabilities. The city around them was oblivious, busy, chaotic, mundane, but each streetlight, each shadowed alley, each passerby was a potential threat neutralized in the matrix of Kevin's calculation. Meghan moved fluidly, guiding Lily, assessing surroundings, micro-adjusting every step, ensuring distance, line of sight, and safety. Kevin's presence remained absolute, a coiled guardian, his body a living shield, mind calculating, instinct honed, ready to act, protective yet restrained. Lily's small hand occasionally brushed his leg, seeking recognition, presence, trust, which he granted subtly, awareness absolute, micro-adjustments protective, eyes scanning for danger without alarming her. The rain fell harder, cascading, reflecting city lights, mixing with shadows, blending threat and benignity. Yet Kevin's perception dissected each layer, assigning priorities, evaluating risk, neutralizing unseen threats. Meghan's gaze remained focused, cautious, assessing Kevin's limits, measuring restraint, noting subtle gestures, micro-expressions, body language, every small nuance revealing intent. Kevin adjusted imperceptibly, each micro-movement a calculation of protection, command, and silent warning. They approached the edge of the street, puddles reflecting neon, headlights, moving shadows, each step measured, cautious, protective. Kevin's hand subtly shifted behind Lily, an invisible shield, anticipation layered with instinct and calculation. Meghan adjusted her child's hood, protective, subtle, precise. Instincts coiled like springs beneath calm exterior. Lily's curiosity flickered as she glanced at Kevin, questions unasked, trust innate, awareness embedded. Kevin's attention scanned angles, shadows, peripheral movements, micro-expressions, potential threats, all cataloged and processed silently, rain-soaked, streets reflective, the city unaware of history, presence, and tension moving across its surface. Kevin's hand remained subtly ready, presence silent, protective, coiled authority layered beneath measured calm. Meghan's steps adjusted minutely, protective, guiding, aware, balancing caution, instinct, and trust. Lily hummed quietly, small rhythm of innocence threading tension, safety, observation, awareness. Kevin's lips pressed thin, jaw tight, mind calculating, planning, protecting. They reached a point of temporary safety, threshold of journey, steps measured, micro-adjustments protective. Kevin allowed a subtle release of coiled tension, acknowledgement of control, restraint, and success in preservation of family unit. Meghan exhaled softly, chest rising and falling, protective instinct satisfied but vigilance intact. Lily glanced at Kevin. Small smile, trust implicit, recognition unspoken. Kevin activated phone briefly, confirming orders executed, threats neutralized, protection ensured. Rain continued to fall, mixing reflections, shadows, and light. The three moved, micro-adjusting, protective, aware, yet moving with tentative normalcy. Kevin's presence behind them, absolute protective, coiled, restrained, calculating. Meghan's instincts layered protection subtly, adaptive, responsive, ready for invisible threats. Lily hummed, unaware, threading innocence into protective matrix. The city moved around them, oblivious, chaotic, mundane. Kevin's mind catalogued, prepared, calculated, layered, protective. Meghan watched him carefully, noting limits, calculating trust, assessing restraint, measuring history and instinct. They disappeared into the rain, each step deliberate, protective, instinctive, aware, layering history, risk, and presence. Kevin sent final instructions to Inner Circle. Shut it all down. Threats, enemies, shadows neutralized, erased. He would not pull his family into his world. He would erase the world instead. And this time, destruction was devotion, absolute, unflinching, protective, resolute, complete. The storm outside mirrored the storm behind him, history, instinct, danger, and love converging. Kevin remained coiled, protective, calculating, presence absolute, watching, shielding, silent guardian. The ending was not reconciliation. It was protection, restraint, devotion, survival, and an unbreakable bond forged in silence, observation, and measured action. Each micro-step, glance, breath, gesture was a silent promise. Survival first, family next, power tempered by choice, history acknowledged, instincts executed. Rain fell harder, washing streets, reflecting lights, echoing the closure of one chapter and the controlled calm of the next. The city moved, oblivious. Kevin, Meghan, Lily existed in layered reality, history, instinct, protection, awareness, silence. Threats neutralized, orders executed, paths cleared. Kevin's devotion complete, unflinching, lethal in its precision. He walked away, shadow, guardian, king of restraint and family, leaving the world intact yet erased for those who sought them. Silence, safety, and presence marked the end, not of life, but of a story of power, loss, survival, and devotion. And that's the story, a tale of love, power, and choices that could change everything. If it moved you, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Heart-Woven Tales so you never miss another story that will grip your heart. Comment below and tell me, what would you have done in their place? Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next story.